Welcome back to Dis to Digital, where we talk about the evolution of gaming, media, and take a look at some of the classics that shape today's modern titles. As always, I'm your host, Brett Clark, and joined with me is the lovely Mr. Matt Keaton.
Yo, guys, what's going on today?
Matt, today's topic is Beyond the Pixels. It's our look into the world of video gaming characters, more or less, and trying to look at some iconic characters throughout the video game franchises. And for the viewers at home, I think when people talk about like iconic characters, I think like there's so many of them that you gotta kind of like be specific, because like any video game character is iconic to anybody. I think there's some requirements and prerequisites that people have for it. Like, you want to explain to those, explain to the people at home?
So basically, for me, what an iconic character is a character whose presence is memorable, very memorable, very independent, and alone their presence in either a video game or movie or whatever elevates that story and experience to the next level, and you can remember it for years to come. To me, that's iconic. That's what it means to say if a character is iconic or not.
I think whenever I think of like an iconic character, I think of kind of like a retail setting where if someone saw it, like a parent, they know right away, like, oh, that's that person, or that's a video game character.
Yeah.
Which is like I'm going to use Master Chief, for instance. Everyone doesn't necessarily know who Master Chief is, but they go, oh, that's the Halo guy, you know? So I think there's things like that where people look at iconic characters and not everybody knows what they're from or who they are, but they know that they're a video game of some sort, you know? For you, what is some of your like standout iconic characters?
Standout iconic characters, gotta go with my boy Ezio Auditore de Firenze. Commander Shepard, Mass Effect franchise, depending on how you create them, because you know Shepard is yours to create. It's you technically. Gotta go with my boy Nathan Drake, one of the most iconic for me. I could go on all day, but I don't want to spoil your turn here. I list a few. You got any?
Yeah, so I mean, like, for me, Nathan Drake, especially like when he was on the PlayStation, like the PS3, you saw him everywhere. Like Uncharted was a PS3 title, along with Among Thieves, and what was the third one called? Drake's Deception.
Yeah,
you know. Firstly, like the fact that all of those games, like Nathan Drake's just murdering a bunch of people, you know, like, you know, Drake's Deception, Drake deceptively is killing millions of people and no one cares, you know. Uncharted 2, among thousands of bodies that Nathan Drake has murdered. Like, you know, I'm just saying, like, no one's ever really put that into question. I just realized that now. But with Nathan Drake being such an iconic character, he's like Indiana Jones, you know, like everyone kind of can relate to that. And I think that's kind of what drives people to appreciate Nathan Drake. For me, like, I got to think of some of the classics, like Mario, for instance, Link, Zelda. I mean, like, when I think of, like, probably the most iconic video game character, you got to think of Pikachu from Pokemon.
Okay.
I think everybody knows who Pikachu is.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at some of these iconic characters, I think it's more of what did they do to get there? Like what enabled them to have that status as an icon?
Yeah.
Because back on the PS1, Crash Bandicoot was pretty much PlayStation's mascot for the longest. They had so many ads with the Bandicoot in it, where it's just like a giant like guy in like a mascot costume and he's just talking crap outside of like different studios and stuff like that. You remember those commercials?
For Crash Bandicoot? Yeah. The classics.
Yeah, and stuff like that where it's like once you reach it like that status of being an icon, like just people get behind you and they just give you way more elevation and popularity. Same thing like with Crash Bandicoot and Sony, like that was a great partnership with them. And it was kind of a shame that it took them so long to make a game, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like you had this icon who you just kind of let just kind of fade away. And then they brought it back with It's About Time. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Took them long enough. Yeah, it's kind of hard to choose because if you're looking at iconic characters and you're thinking about mascots, for certain brands, I mean, you've got clearly Nintendo with Mario as the poster boy mascot. For generations bygone with consoles that are no longer in effect in action, you go to Sega with Sonic being the forefront. And I was actually surprised on the Sonic note. The movies, the movie that they made was so entrenched in people that the character, the early development wasn't right for the character, and they wanted to reshoot, redo it. They wanted the character to look different, and then I think they really nailed it. I haven't seen it, but from what I heard and saw, I was surprised at people's reactions, because that is what you call an iconic character, but it's also Sega's mascot. And it's something that's, it's kind of crazy to think about. People get that into it. But for me, I mean, if you go to more iconic characters going down my list, like Ezio, you've got the Italian Renaissance era. You've got a young boy who's in his late teens, about to become a man, and he's just devastated. His family is gone. His father and brother are killed for something that was part of a conspiracy that they actually didn't do, and he's left to support and kind of take care of his mother and his sister. And you've spanned this great series of games through, was it three titles following his journey from the beginning to the end. And it was a wild ride. It was something that just, when you play Ezio, he's this brash, cocky teenager who doesn't really understand what his place is. He just thinks the world is his oyster, and then he comes to find out later on that there's something much bigger out in the world that's going on, and he actually does have a place. He just doesn't know it yet. And it's interesting to play as him and to become a man and to have all of these responsibilities fall on his shoulders. And I mean, it's one of those characters that's iconic for, I think, relatable reasons. Growing up, when I first started playing it, I was in my early 20s, and it's like mid early 20s, and it's like, I kind of relate to him as a teenager, and then going on with a lot of responsibilities and the paths that my life took, I really I really just connected with him and felt like I was a part of that experience. That was me, somebody like me that had done things like me and been through things that I was. And that's what really hits home for me for an iconic character. It's someone who's like relatable, someone who's been through what you've been through, or just all around likable, And also another point too, you're touching on Nathan Drake. Believe it or not, the inspiration for Nathan Drake comes from like a mix between Harrison Ford and Bruce Willis. Their swagger on camera, but the look of Nathan Drake, believe it or not, gonna sound kind of out of left field, but the lead designer took the inspiration from Johnny Knoxville. I kid you not. Yeah, they said his goodness and his cool attitude was the inspiration for Nathan Drake. So I was kind of surprised when I saw that, looking that up to kind of get more of a background on the origins of some of these characters, and it's kind of interesting with some of the inspirations come from for the character design.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at like Lara Croft, like Tomb Raider, right in the same boat as Uncharted. I mean, she's gone through so many like redesigns.
Yep.
Originally, everyone kind of figured Angelina Jolie is Lara Croft, and that kind of is like, Lara looked a lot like Angelina Jolie, or did Angelina look a lot like Lara Croft? I don't know. It kind of became synonymous at that point that Angelina Jolie was Lara Croft. But now with their new revamp, which I personally like, will look way more. It's way more realistic as far as like someone who is more relatable. I mean, yes, Angelina Jolie is a real person, but I don't think everybody looks like Angelina Jolie. You know? I mean, like, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Angelina Jolie is like supermodel status. So when you have someone who looks more normal, it's a much more believable character, in my opinion. It's kind of my thing with like Ninja Gaiden, like Ryu Hayabusa, who's like just super jacked. Now, mind you, I believe he's like 5'8" in the game or something like that. Like he's like standard like size for like an average male, but the guy's just like towering over these monsters and just super jacked. And you like they put in like centimeters. And I was like, what? The guy's like under 6 feet tall, and this guy's just taking down giant monsters, and the guy's more ripped than freaking Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
And he's just supposed to be just an average ninja guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like you do. So I think having a character who in design is relatable and is something you can get behind is also something that I think is good. Because, you know, like Lara Croft, like she had her appeal, you know? But as the new one came out, it became a lot more gritty. You didn't see it as much. In the original days, you saw a lot of Tomb Raider stuff. You saw a lot of Tomb Raider giant like mannequins and stuff like that. Because it was like, you know, pixelated. You know, it's kind of goofy looking, I guess. But I think something like Nathan Drake, where he's just an average looking guy, you know, I think it helps a lot. I seen they're making a Nathan Drake movie or an Uncharted movie, and everyone wants Nathan Fillion to be Nathan Drake. I would love Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake. I think he'd be fantastic for the role.
Yeah, they've been talking about that forever, man. And forever and a day. It's like it started originally with Mark Wahlberg being cast, and then it was cast aside, and then now he's actually being cast as Sully, which is funny. But yeah.
Get Nathan Fillion in there. I'd take Nathan Fillion in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Going back to Laura.
Are they doing the Spider-Man kid?
Yeah. I believe it is Tom Holland who was cast. I think.
See, that's how much I care about Tom Holland. I don't know his name. No, it's not. He's you know, I'm a Maguire fan. You know, so
yeah.
No offense to Holland. It's just, that's what I grew up with. You know, it's kind of hard to get past the nostalgia vision.
You mean you're not an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man fan?
No, get out of here. No.
You know, I'm just...
I got nostalgia vision, but not that big of nostalgia vision.
No, Tobey Maguire to me is always Spider-Man, but I think Tom Holland was pretty cool.
He was pretty good, especially in like the Infinity War and all that.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
He was good. Going back to Lara Croft though, the whole point of it was she was over-sexualized. You know, if you look at the truth of it, she was first seen in 1996 on PlayStation. With the game Tomb Raider, and it was about her. She's going against a rival archaeologist who was looking for the Atlantean artifact, and then from that transcending point, it became an over-sexualized, unrealistic expectation of like body imagery, and I think it excited young male teens, but it kind of left everybody else thinking, oh, you know, this is just cheap trash. And then later on in the console cycle, I think it was somewhere around Tomb Raider Legend or something, they kept over-sexualizing her. And I mean, to the point where there was more revealing outfits, and it was just like, it was off-putting for some people. And then all of a sudden, like you said, with the Tomb Raider reboot 2013, it was like, whoa, this is different. This is Lara Croft, the young woman who's finding herself. Because, you know, when you first play as Tomb Raider, she's an established quote unquote badass already. She knows what to do, how to jump, how to fire, you know, all that stuff, and combat basics, survival basics, and whatnot. And then you've got this new Tomb Raider, which is, to me, in my opinion, way better. And then like you said, the dirt, the grit, you know, she's having to survive, and she's having to take the elements and craft from those elements things to survive. And that is far more interesting than over the top Hollywood action type Lara Croft. And talking about Angelina Jolie too, you know, she was the perfect representation of Lara Croft, because she wasn't like overly like the original game where she has the pixelated boobs out to here, you know what I mean? And it's like you got Angelina Jolie, who's a more normal body type, but it's all on the appearance of their face and lips, and it's like over sexualization, but kind of dialing it back, you know. And my wife and I love the Tomb Raider movies. It's not like it's gonna win. It would have won an Oscar, but they were entertaining, and it was a good representation. But just, you know, with Lara Croft, it's like, it's kind of come full circle where it's like a more predominant character. And I think that's been a big influence for young women, saying, hey, this is a more attainable body type. This is more normal to have this look, you know, with where it's cargo shorts instead of tight shorts. And it's a tank top over another one instead of having a tank top exposing everything. So it's like, you know, and I think this Tomb Raider was really just flew under the radar, so to speak. You know, I don't think it was appreciated as much as it deserved for the way that they took with that direction and the reboot, you know.
Yeah.
I just wish they would have did a better job at the final part of the game.
Yeah, no, 3. You and me both agree on there. Yeah, let me just say this: like, the worst part of Tomb Raider, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, is it's like she becomes the Tomb Raider that she's like born to be or whatever. You know? All right, and then half the game is I can do this, Jonah. I don't need you. Like she's just like complaining the whole time. She's so entitled. I'm like, and I'm sitting here like, this isn't who she became. Like, you know. So that was my one concern with it. And past all that, let's move on from Tomb Raider. We know I don't like that game. One of the things I will say, as far as like, you were talking about like how it's more appropriate and more realistic body type. The actor who played the new Tomb Raider, they made a remake movie based off the first reboot game, and they were body shaming the actress because they were saying that she didn't have a big enough bust. And I'm like, I'm not watching the movie for the bust. I'm watching it for the acting.
Exactly.
Yep. And it was pretty good. You know, I thought it was pretty good. Bought it on YouTube, or I rented it on YouTube for like $6, and I was like, pretty good. Watched it like, you know, just in a couple hours. It wasn't that bad, you know, but it wasn't something I've never owned, you know. It wasn't that great. But, you know, the fact is that that's iconic to people, is that look, you know, and it's a shame that you can't look past that. It's kind of like there's some people in like the cosplay community where if you're, I'm not trying to be like racist here, but if you're black, you can't cosplay. That's their mentality. Yeah. You know? And for me, it's like, it doesn't matter. You know, a cosplay is somebody dressing up, you know, it's someone representing that character, trying to look like that character. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, the skin color of that person. But there are some genuine people who will hardcore defend the fact that cosplaying is based on your skin color.
Yeah.
So you can only cosplay people within that skin tone of yours. It's like, that's so stupid.
That's just what's wrong with society today in general, but that's, you know, a topic for someone else's podcast.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, is being an iconic character, does that mean that you can't like go off of it? You can't have a variation of that character?
Right.
You know? Like imagine the Final Fantasy VII remake with like Cloud, Tifa, like Aerith. Like if they made Aeris with bigger boobs than Tifa, the world would freak out. The world would blow up, you know? And I don't care. At the end of the day. Tifa got some cool hair, but she has, in the original game, her hair is like a whale's tail, like it parts at the bottom. And in the game, she just got a ponytail. Now, realistically, I don't see anybody walking around with their hair like that, so I get it. But is that people really were not upset with that? People were upset with the fact that her boobs are smaller than in the game. I'm like, who cares about these boobs, dude? Like, like no one cares about that stuff.
It's boys being boys.
Well, I mean, like, is there a point though where like an iconic character can't ever change? Like, you're only allowed to change this much, you know?
That I agree with. People, and I think it's a perception of the viewer and the perception of the fans. Whenever there's change in general, just in life, for a minute here, getting real. In life, people don't like change. You know, their best friend leaves their job, they're miserable, they quit. You know.
That's true.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. You lose something, and because of change, and you get upset, and you don't like it. But what do you do in life? You move on, and you accept, and you understand it's not in your control. And all these people who complain about characters, you know, it's just ridiculous. It's like, let it go. Who cares? You know, we're not the people designing it. The creators are, and they listen to us for the most part. But to me, I've never actually, as a gamer, honest to God, I've never said, oh, I think this character design looks really stupid. I don't like this.
Okay.
You know,
I can disagree with that. I thought there were some pretty dumb characters.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I don't criticize the characters, the design of the characters themselves, because it's someone's artistic interpretation that's been put in, and, you know, they've bled sweat over it. You know, they deserve the credit. I think sometimes character design with the audio could use some, you know, maybe like the dialogue choices could have been different. But as far as like the designing of the characters, it's just, it is what it is. It's there. I'm in awe because I'm not an artist like that. I can't draw to save my butt. You know, everything coming out of me is going to be stick figures and poor coloring.
Oh, I get you. But that's kind of how I am too.
But for other people who are more meticulous in character design, I can kind of see and respect that they may not be happy with it. But you know, people in today's society, people are going to always argue, disagree, say, "Hey, I don't think that's right," or "I think this looks stupid." But really, it's just from sitting back and being judgmental, and that society's way too judgmental. And you know, a lot of these iconic characters, I don't really think I would honestly change anything about their design. You know, maybe sometimes question some of the storyline writing, of course, obviously. But as far as looks go, you shouldn't shame anyone because nobody's perfect. You know, I think that's the message. I think that's the message I want to get out there is that, you know, no matter what color, you know, creed you are, wherever you come from, whatever you look like, if you want to do you and cosplay somebody, go for it. I think that's ultimately what I'm trying to get across. You know, don't sit there and, you know, if you're a plus size woman and you want to cosplay Lara Croft, go for it. I mean, there's people out there like me that would support you and talk you up and give you that backing because, you know, it's just who I am. It's how I grew up, you know, so
I agree with that. And I agree with your thing where you're like, audio design could be better. I mean, Titus from Final Fantasy X. I got to play this for you after the podcast. Guy literally is like, ha 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 ha.
Oh,
it's like super awkward, but it's one of my favorite parts in all of Final Fantasy X. So I'll have to play it for you.
Speaking of audio, real quick, I got something controversial. Someone's probably going to say, "Oh, you have problems." Oh. Everybody complains about Star Wars. You either love it or you hate it, and they complain about Jar Jar Binks. I don't have a problem with Jar Jar Binks's audio, his sound. I have a problem with the things they have him say. But as far as his dialogue, like his you know, hearing him speak, I don't have a problem with that. I just think the writing was dumb at the end of the day. So, you know, when you're talking about speech and you're talking about like character representation, it is what it is. I wasn't annoyed by him. I could go back and watch it. He doesn't make me grit my teeth or cringe. It's just, it is what it is. It's a character. It might have been poorly designed to some people, but for me, it doesn't ruin Star Wars.
I think we just lost a couple of viewers there. And probably lost me. You lost me when you were talking about Jar Jar Binks. I'm like, Jar Jar.
See that? But that's what I'm saying. It's up to everyone's interpretation. You can't be cringeworthy in today's world with what this year has showed us. You can't hate on anything and have that karma not come back at you. So
I can hate on George Lucas milking me for more money. Have you seen the 3D version of Phantom Menace? I swear there's one thing that's 3D, and it's the trailer on your TV. Nothing in that movie theater was 3D at all.
I didn't get sucked into that.
Are these glasses broken? Like, I saw that movie in 3D. Horrible. Okay, we're getting off topic here, but 3D movies. I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender live action in 3D. All right? The text, like the text comes on the screen and then it like burns because it's like on fire. Like flames, the little flame pieces are 3-dimensional. That 3D for the opening credits was better than all of Phantom Menace in 3D. Just saying.
Okay, well that's production value. That's what that is.
Yeah. That's George Lucas milking me for more money. I can hate on him for that.
Yeah.
By the way, I got a text from Kylie about Tifa's hair. It's a dolphin's tail, not a whale tail. Just okay. Whale tail sounds really bad now that I realize what I said.
Well, thank you, Kylie, for clarifying that for us.
Oh yeah, just for the viewers at home that are going, no, it's a dolphin, no. Now we fixed it. We fixed it. All right, but I mean that's kind of. I mean, with that, it's like I couldn't tell what it was. Technically, it's a tail, you know, whatever. One of the characters that I really wanted to talk about was like, was Samus. Like, you know, Samus from Metroid. She's not in a lot of games, you know.
That's true.
Like leading female like character. She was like one of the first. She like started that whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
Strong female protagonist. I thought that was fantastic, and it's hard to ignore her, you know.
Yeah.
But then you get something like Metroid Other M on the Wii, and they just make her such a wuss, you know. Have you played it?
I've seen it being played. I followed it. It's like one of those I didn't really want to get into. I'm not really good with those side scrollers, man. Just it frustrates me.
Yeah. The Other M, it was made by Team Ninja, who I love. Team Ninja, Ryu Hayabusa, Ninja Gaiden. They make it. Dead or Alive, like my favorite fighting series. They Team Ninja did, and you're like, what does that mean? Oh, that means that the character had more emotional problems than someone in a psychiatric ward. She's like, oh, I don't know if I can kill these aliens. Oh, this guy, do I love him or do I not? You've known him for 10 minutes, woman. Like, that was my issue, was that they took a character and they tried to add life to a character, life, quote unquote. But that's not who the character is iconic for. Samus is not iconic for being a emotional wreck, you know what I mean, in that game.
Yeah.
She's a badass bounty hunter who kills a bunch of shit and gets Oculuses and freaking kills Weevil. She doesn't kill Stylus. She doesn't kill Weevil, technically. Oh, sorry, spoilers. But, she kills all these other bounty hunters to get the Oculi, and then she can go, save the world. That's what she does. That's what she's iconic for. Not for gooing over her captain or whatever the hell it was. Really made me mad when I played that game. But, yeah, that's my venting session with Other M. We can talk about that later if we want to.
Well, that's all good.
Iconic characters that you can think of?
Oh, I was going to say that I think it's good for you to share stuff like that, though, with us, too, because, for me, I know a little bit about Samus, but other than that, hearing it from you is informational for me. So I appreciate that.
It'd be like if Diva wasn't Korean. Imagine that.
Oh, okay.
That's a huge part of her thing. She says she speaks Korean, and for those of you who don't know, in Overwatch there's Matt's a Diva main, and she
if you couldn't tell, hint.
Yeah, he's got statues and things for all that, but she's got a mech where has the Korean flag on it. She speaks Korean when she does certain objective moves, stuff like that. So if you remove that from the game, you remove her entire persona. Because she's a Korean streamer, pretty much, like a video game player in a video game. If you remove that aspect of it, it's just some person in a mech. That's not Diva. Diva's the e-girl before TikTok was a thing. I see you, Matt. I see you and your lollies.
Yeah. So if I had to pick, it's tough, man. It really is putting someone in the hot seat, having a pick.
I can give you another one if you want to think about it.
I'm probably going to say my favorite of all time has got to be Solid Snake.
Oh, okay.
Metal Gear Solid franchise. I recently started playing it, so that's why I'm kind of choosing it to speak on it. But from my experience when I was younger, was it was kind of confusing and kind of the timeline. Metal Gear Solid franchise is a game where it's more modern tactical espionage combat mixed with a lot of military jargon and political things, and there's a lot of stuff it can lose people. But for people who kind of stick with it and say, okay, well, maybe there's a point to this. I mean, shout out to Hideo Kojima. He is got to be by far one of the most brilliant masterminds to have ever made video games. And if you look at the subtitles in the first game, he was involved in everything. I just replayed and finished Metal Gear Solid 1, and I'm working on 2, Sons of Liberty. And it's been a great experience. I mean, my wife's been there by my side the whole time watching me play, and she's enjoying it. For somebody who doesn't know all those technical terms and what those things mean, she's eating it up, and she's processing it and enjoying it. And for me, Solid Snake is a character has spanned all these different things and obstacles in his way. I mean, having to face the facts that he's a clone, having to understand. What's that? Spoiler
alert.
Oh, well, hey.
I've never played a Metal Gear game,
You have. Get out of here.
No, I played the first mission of Metal Gear Solid, the first one.
Well, I think if you got to talk about iconic characters, you got to just talk about some other stuff. I mean, it's...
I'm never going to play it now.
So you have to come to terms with some things that you learn along the way. And a lot of that he handles well, but other things he doesn't. He handles poorly, and it's all in the dialogue. You know, there's the original game is like mostly cutscenes and dialogue for days, but that's where it shines. Is that you can play a little bit of espionage, you know, go sneak through and hide under something, knock a guy out, and then go to the next room, and then boom, there's a cutscene for 20 minutes. But if you're a fan of interactive games and movies, and you just want to kind of something to just sit back and chill and play, it's a great franchise to play. You can pick it up at any point and you won't miss out on the whole package, because every single game touches on either history or future in the franchise, and it's coming to turn. So like in Metal Gear Solid 1, it's all brand new to me playing it, and then I find out, oh wow, like I learn it all because it's telling me things on the back end that I never knew were going to happen until I played them, but they spoil it in the first game. So it's like, it's kind of interesting the way he wraps everything up. And his Solid Snake's character, I mean, he's this rugged military operator who's like working for the government, and it's like everything's in conspiracies and shadows, and he doesn't know who to trust, and like people he's close to, Naomi Hunter, just betrays him, and then the colonel betrays him, and it's like he's got to deal on the fly with all these instances and these problems that arise, but he's got to keep his emotions in check. And he also starts to learn like the more human side of himself, and you know, he kind of falls in love, and it's, you know, we get to see him in the franchise from a more mid-ranged age operator, like in his, you know, late 30s, early 40s. And at the end of the franchise, you see him as an old man. And I love the storytelling back and forth, how you get to see, because each game flips a timeline, and then a couple of the games you don't even play as him. You know, like, not to make fun of myself, but when I first played Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, I had no idea it wasn't Solid Snake because it looks just like him. It's actually Big Boss, and it's how he became Big Boss. Because the original Big Boss was not him; it was a female. So there's all this beautiful storytelling going on by this creator, Kojima, and it's phenomenal. And it's all done with all this like really cool Japanese lore in the background, and all this culture stuff comes to the forefront for people like me who have never got to travel there or who don't understand, and you get to learn a lot about their culture and things and how they see the Western civilization, and it's really interesting. It really is. So for me, without a doubt, how Solid Snake handles emotions and how he lets down that rough, gruff exterior, and how he just kind of transcends a character who starts to understand, hey, I've got to carry all this weight, because if I don't, nobody will, you know. And he's the ultimate sacrificial lamb, so he puts his life on the line all the time, and even for people he just meets, which is not like he was cloned to be. He was cloned to be a super soldier and to not have those feelings and emotions. And so that's really interesting for me. That's why I choose Solid Snake as my favorite all-time iconic character.
I think for all-time favorite character, I don't know. I'm torn. I like Fox McCloud from the Star Fox series, but the thing is that Star Fox games, there's only like 4 or 5 of them, and they're all used to just show off prototype hardware, more or less. I mean, Star Fox games and the lore and the story are fantastic. You know, I love Star Fox, but I can't love Star Fox games as much as I love the Splinter Cell series. And for me, Sam Fisher,
oh yes,
hands down is like he's up there. Just the voice actor alone in the original games, not in the new Blackout or whatever it was. But that voice actor all the way back to like Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, like he was there the entire time. He added so much depth to Sam Fisher, just the sound of it. And when I read the books, and in my mind it would be him narrating, because in like there's like Splinter Cell, like Barracuda or something like that was one of the books, and it's in first person, and he's narrating the entire book to you. For me, reading it in his voice, it was like I was an extension of the game. And for me, that's what made him iconic, was not necessarily who he was, but his voice was iconic for me. Because that you're in the middle of the night, you're a soldier who doesn't exist, and the only thing you can see at night is your goggles, but you can hear everything. and you always hear his voice when he's talking, which is why I love Splinter Cell Conviction, because Splinter Cell Conviction is one of the few games where he's out in the middle of the day. You see Sam Fisher as full potential, and you're not limited by being stealthy. You have great things like the mark and execute feature, where you can literally just pretty much aimbot your way through missions if you do certain takedowns. Splinter Cell Conviction, even though it's not the best Splinter Cell game out there, it's my personal favorite for the fact that it allowed Sam Fisher to be more than what people used to see him as. The book was fantastic. And then after that, the book Endgame is fantastic because it's from this perspective of other third echelon operatives. So that's one of the things where, for me, Sam Fisher, most people don't think of him as iconic as someone like Link or Mario. But the fact is that out of all the Tom Clancy games, he is the one guy you can name. No one else knows who 30K is. Ghost Recon, if you didn't know. And that's Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Everyone would be like, who the hell's 30K? No one would know that.
Look it up.
Yeah, you gotta look it up. The there's so many things like that in the Tom Clancy series where they have great worlds. Yeah, they've got great concepts, but very few characters stand out like Sam Fisher,
Yeah.
And he kind of sums up the entire Tom Clancy universe, I mean, you've got the guys in Ghost Recon Advanced, like Warfighter and stuff like that, but none of those guys, you don't remember any of those guys' names. I just remember Ramirez, and the only reason I remember Ramirez is because it's like the first guy who says anything in Advanced Warfighter 2 and Advanced Warfighter 1. But once again, no one would ever know that, unless you're a huge fan of it. But Sam Fisher, everyone knows.
That's a great choice, man. I love that.
Yeah.
You can't think of Sam Fisher without think of Michael Ironside and his deep gruff. And then when they replaced him, it was just like,
the guy's like he's like one of those dads that can't wait to get grass on their white shoes. He sounds like a a middle class white dad.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to get some grass on these. But anyways, with that note, I think we've reached the save point, man. Don't you agree?
Yes, totally.
Awesome. Last week when we did that, I totally forgot to give us a pause for the sound effect, and so we just start talking. So I had to make sure we have a little pause there. Anyways, so this week's topic actually came to us from a viewer. And like we've said in the past, guys, if you want to reach out to us and give us a topic to talk about, you can reach out to us at Disc Digital. That's Disc with a K. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, or go to our Facebook group where we have conversations quite a bit, or our Discord chat where we talk every single day. And if you have time to go to discdigital.net, you can scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and you can actually leave an anonymous question there. That's where this one was left. Because not everyone has social media, so we gave people that option if they wanted to do that. So this one comes from Jen. Hey guys, awesome podcast so far. Well, thank you, Jen. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you do a topic request. I'd love to hear you guys deep dive into iconic video. Sorry, my bad, messed up. I'd love to hear you guys deep dive into iconic game characters and their influences on pop culture. For example, how did Lara Croft and her evolution influence the role of strong female leads in the games, movies, and society? Did Indiana Jones influence Nathan Drake? And did Pitfall Harry influence Indiana Jones? Thanks in advance. Actually, Pitfall came out after Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones influenced Pitfall. The creator of the game actually confirmed that. I just know that off the top of my head. He took inspiration from Tarzan and Indiana Jones and Hollywood movies with swinging on vines, because it was in Hollywood way before that. So I knew that one. I knew that one off the top of my head. But we appreciate that comment, Jen. Thank you so much. That helps the podcast out a lot when you guys interact like that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's funny. Pitfall Harry actually came out 1 year after. So with Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford, the Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in 1981, and Pitfall Harry was being developed during that time. And the Indiana Jones character with the hat, you could see it in Pitfall Harry with the hat and the whip. There was a direct correlation of influence, but it was reversed. It was coming from Indiana Jones going to the creators of Pitfall, who chose a likable type character with their little bit of take on it. It's a tough game for me. I could barely get through that game.
That's not your fault. The game is not it's not aged well. Me and Kylie played it recently on the Atari. It didn't age well. Your guy just jumps straight up, has no forward momentum, and he falls like he's a cinder block in the Pacific Ocean. Like, he just goes straight down, right to the bottom. So that is the save point question of the day. I mean, as far as I think iconic characters on pop culture, this kind of ties into the third topic that we're going to bring up here. I think popular culture and video game characters go hand in hand when you have a character like Mario, who is pretty much your brand ambassador or your mascot. You know, like I was talking earlier about Crash Bandicoot with the PS1. I think when you have a character who's so iconic that they literally are the mascot for your brand and people can identify your brand with that character, like what prevents someone from becoming that status, or what does someone need to become Mario status, you know? I mean, for me, when I look at Mario, like I for years didn't realize he was a plumber. I might just be stupid. I just thought it was a guy in overalls.
Not just you.
Lie. Okay, good. I'm happy I'm not that, because my dad's like, "Oh yeah, he's a plumber," and I go, "What? He's a plumber?" You know, I never thought about it that way. I just thought it was Mario. You know?
Yeah.
I never realized it, and I think when you get to that status where you're just who you are, like Yoshi, no one's like, "Oh, he's a dinosaur." It's Yoshi, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't think of really many other like companies that have mascots as much as Nintendo does. Sony has maybe one or two, but I know Microsoft doesn't really. Well, actually, Microsoft did confirm they had one. Is that Brute guy or whatever? They like literally just tweeted it. I think I sent it to you just as a joke. Microsoft didn't have an official mascot, but they said like Harry the Groot or whatever it is from like Halo Infinite is now their official mascot or whatever it is.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "What is this?" I don't even remember seeing that face.
Yeah, the head of Xbox confirmed it in a tweet, so it's real. I don't know. Okay. I don't know his name, but still, Xbox bucked the trend and didn't have and doesn't have a mascot. Like Master Chief, as much as you want to think it's not Microsoft's official mascot. You know, it's iconic, but it's not their mascot. Microsoft refuses, I think, to do that because they didn't want to be like other companies, because they have so many properties and third-party properties that they can acquire through PC and Xbox. I think that's kind of why they stopped doing that idea, or they kind of nipped it in the bud, personally. But
I think their new mascot's going to be the little Fallout boy.
Oh, no. Well, see, the thing is that can't be Xbox because it's not exclusive to Xbox.
They acquired Bethesda.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They did acquire Bethesda. Oh, my gosh, I forgot about that.
Microsoft just like bought the king of RPGs.
They bought the king of bugs, you know.
Well, we won't go into that. That's a whole nother. Oof, yeah, no.
I don't see a lot of people like stand behind Bethesda, and I kind of am on the fence with Bethesda. You know, it's like half of your games are fixed by the community. You know, and it's like there's got to be a quality control there. You know, how many iterations of Skyrim are there? You know, that's kind of where I'm torn with Bethesda, is that it's like id Software. They're a legacy, you know, and they're riding on that legacy.
Yeah.
Don't want to get too into that because this is about iconic characters. But if Fallout's going to be their poster child, I don't know. I mean,
it was just like a sincere joke.
Oh, okay.
To be honest,
I mean, I'm just saying, but you've got grounding, you've got like some traction behind that. It makes legitimate sense that they could do that.
I think if you go back and you look at video game history and you look at commercials, I remember as a kid seeing the Nintendo and all you saw was like Mario, but more importantly, their own brand ambassadors were themselves. The head of Nintendo was on more commercials than you would have ever realized growing up. And for me, I think what prevents what you're talking about, what prevents a character from being iconic or from being a brand ambassador and thinking, oh, Sony, I'm thinking Crash Bandicoot. That's not coming to the forefront for people. I think for people maybe in my walk of life following my gaming trend would think Kratos would be the poster child, the ambassador for Sony. However, the reason why he's not is he's not kid friendly.
That's why
if
Nathan
you're a
Drake
parent,
probably is.
yeah. If you're a kid, if you're a parent or a kid, you want to play as Kratos. But if for parents who use that as, oh, well, I don't want my kid to play a mature game, and that's fine, they're not going to experience Kratos. And I really don't think they should, especially with how brutal things are. I'm glad that they came to their senses and it's rated a little bit better than it is. But I think Kratos is not a iconic, ambassador for Sony's and platform because of the fact that it's too graphic for children. And I mean, me personally, I think Kratos is a perfect mascot, but he hasn't reached that market. And there's a lot of parents that let their kids play these kinds of games and they don't care. But when you think Sony, it's hard to choose. I mean, you could choose Sackboy from Little Big Planet.
That's true. Sackboy.
You could technically choose Solid Snake as a mascot, but those games are for adults only. You do not let your kids play those games. There's too much going on. You've got to understand with kids. And I think for most platforms, that's where they grab the ambassador. That's where they grab the idea. Sonic is this wholesome little cute little hedgehog, and he's blue, and if you watch a Netflix documentary, his origins, what he was supposed to be, is totally different. He wasn't supposed to be a hedgehog, and so I'll let you guys check that out in your own time. I don't want to spoil it for you, but for these characters, it's all about marketing and what they make the most money on. And Nintendo, it's Mario, and Sony, it's making the most money on their sports titles, making the most money on the third-party titles. And you can't really say that Ellie is a brand ambassador, even though Last of Us franchise is probably one of the best-selling that Sony's ever had. And call any character of Call of Duty across all platforms, you can't really say any of them are iconic, except Captain Price, obviously. Most beloved, you could say. But I think what prevents characters is not necessarily flaws as much as it is marketing opportunities for characters that just aren't there. If you look at the commercials nowadays, you see each platform take their top first party titles. Like Sony does all commercials on their first party titles. Yep. Sony, I don't think, barely shows anybody that's not on their console only. Microsoft pulls all of the popular ones that they know Sony's got going on that's not first party. So like something that you can actually play on the Xbox, they take the most popular titles, and it's always like Assassin's Creed and their Halo and Gears of War, things like that. Yeah. They market the same things over and over again, but it's because it's their most popular. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to say Marcus Phoenix deserves to be, or even Master Chief deserves to be, and if I had to pick for Xbox, I don't think I could, because it just, to me, no offense to their brand and anyone who's an Xbox fan, but they don't have an iconic standout character, not even Master Chief, because with Master Chief, there's no personality there. Yeah. There's just a voice, occupying your gameplay. That's it. There's no character there.
Cortana, actually, now that you bring up Master Chief.
Yeah.
Cortana could technically be that gap. I mean, you named an AI after it for your whole development, like your development team and for that. But I agree with you. I mean, the fact that Microsoft doesn't invest into that, and it also goes kind of back to Microsoft was originally the console for all first-person shooters. Like that's kind of their big shtick in the beginning was, this is where you play action games, this is where you play shooting games, this is where you play adult games, quote unquote, Nintendo's for kids, and that's why they probably have more mascots, is like their mentality. I think you're right though. Nintendo is a lot more family friendly, and that's why they have so many more mascots. But they also have some of the oldest IPs. They have the oldest IPs pretty much just because they're the oldest company out there. Xbox only had 3 generations. PlayStation's going on their 5th. Nintendo has had who knows how many. They've had at least 5 or 6 just with handhelds alone. So I think that also goes into it, is that Nintendo's been around long enough to realize that they have these legacy characters that they can just use over and over because it's nostalgia. And on top of that, all their games from day one were were family friendly. You know, I think it's hard pressed to find a rated M first party Nintendo game other than No More Heroes. You know,
I was just gonna say, yeah, with Travis.
what was that?
I was gonna say with Travis, No More Heroes. Yeah.
The and that's kind of where it's like that's the only first party Nintendo game I can think of that was rated M. You know,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else like, you know, that was maybe like Zombie U, but I think Zombie U's T for teen. Well, it doesn't matter. But the fact is that there's not very many first party rated M games for Nintendo because they realize that is not where the demographic is, you know.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Nintendo Switches were selling out during the pandemic. It's because people are locked up with their children. You know, you want something family friendly for the whole family.
Yeah.
And let's give a shout out to Nintendo keeping couch co-op alive. Thank you. Gotta give them
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
If that's an iconic character right there, couch co-op. The Switch Joy-Cons should be an iconic character. That couch co-op, swapping it and giving it to a buddy. I do that. But for Sony, they've you know those little androids, those little bot things for like the Playroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, those I think are technically they're equivalent to Mii's, because during the Wii and the Wii U era on Nintendo, the Mii's were what they were really pushing, because it's like we would like to play, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did that wrong. We would like to play. The androids or whatever, the Astrobots on PlayStation in the Playroom are kind of the same thing, where it's like they're showcasing the PlayStation camera and stuff like that. So. And I mean, obviously, Dr. Disrespect was loving it when he was playing that on the PlayStation 5 demo, you know? So, I mean, if Dr. Disrespect can get behind it, I mean, I can get behind it too, you know? You ever seen that video of Doc playing it?
No, I haven't actually. I have to check that out now.
Man, I gotta show you another video after this. He's not actually playing it. He's just watching, like, the reveal trailer. He just picked up a PlayStation controller. He's going,
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Like,
yeah, okay.
Play it. Yeah. Yep. Dr.
Everything that guy does
is
gold,
please.
man.
We're a small podcast. We love your content. The two-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love it if Dr. Disrespect sponsored one episode. That'd be great. He doesn't have to pay us that much. He just has to give us like a 5% off coupon to Gillette, you know?
Yeah, just, you know, something. No, it's...
Moving on.
Yeah.
He's not gonna sponsor us.
Moving on. Yeah, but do you have any mascots or anything that you think were maybe close? Or here, why don't we do this? What's your worst? What's the video game character you hate the worst?
Okay, like you name yours first.
That
while
might
I think
be
of mine. Okay, I got to think of mine. You should go first. Do you have one off the top of your head?
My most disliked character.
Yeah, one that you just would kill. Drop in the lava.
Well, I mean, not critical on the look of the character, but oh man,
I'm looking at my amiibos right now. See if there's anyone I hate. See, it's
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say I don't hate this character, but I think they do the worst storylines with this character.
Okay.
That's gonna be Agent 47 for the Hitman franchise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can agree with that.
By far, I love the character, but I can't relate to him. I pick up the game, I play the game for the stealth, sneaking assassination type things, the things, you know, you could never do in real life. Okay, that's what you play it for. For me, the stories make the character absolutely one of the worst, but yet most popular, iconic characters you'd ever want to play or associate with. And for me, I just can't get behind it. A dull character who has no emotions, and they try to play to your emotions and say, hey, he's found himself, you know, he rescues the girl from the orphanage who's kind of like going through what he went through, and it just comes up short. And I think it's the voice actor. He's a great choice, but there's no emotion in the character. And I understand he's not supposed to, but at the end of his series, he should have had some sort of conclusion of, what have I done this for? You know, and like had some emotion involved in it. And I think too with Diana Burnwood, the supporting character, it's just terrible. It's just the storyline writing and all this stuff. I don't know. It's one of the greatest potential storylines, and a great iconic character. Love him, but man, is he boring.
He's got some egg on his face. I mean, you said you can't relate to him, Matt. If you took off your hat, I mean, you may as well be.
Oh yeah. I don't have the barcode though. I'm not rocking the barcode.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Matt just shaved his head. For those of you who aren't watching the video on YouTube. So yeah, that was kind of a jerk move on me. But yeah, I kind of agree. Agent 47 is one of those guys where it's like you look at him, you're like, oh, it's a bald guy in a suit with gloves on. It's OJ. Like who is that supposed to be? I don't think anyone's looking at the Agent 47 going, oh yeah, that's Hitman dude. You know, just guy in a suit who's bald. You know.
Yeah.
For me, this is gonna sound really bad. My least favorite character. I like Kratos a lot. Atreus is my least favorite character. Daddy, oh, boy.
Are you sure it's not because you have to hear boy?
No, it's not every that. 5 seconds. Mind that. I didn't mind Kratos in all of the game. I didn't mind him. It's just and he runs up to that one guy and stabs. He goes ah! He just stabs this guy for no reason. Like you know, it's just and oh gosh, Atreus. Oh my gosh. Gosh, Atreus. He's so
it's a good choice. He was annoying. He was annoying. It's one of those like they wanted you to feel like a father. They wanted you to feel in that moment, and not being a father, but being around other people's kids, myself, and having helped raise kids. Yeah. It didn't connect. The family stuff, the loss of the mother, and all that stuff, in the reboot was phenomenal. Tear-jerking moments and the great game. But yeah, the son character just wow, that was just more annoying. Like, can I just leave him somewhere? Like, you know.
Yeah, the issue that I had with it wasn't his role in the story. His role in the story is really good. You know, I don't want to spoil too much. I didn't see. For me, the game was like, you know, like a 9 out of 10. It wasn't a 10 out of 10. I liked the game. It wasn't bad. But his constant whining, that's what really got me. It's like, okay, I get it. You don't want the troll to squish you. Now, don't tell me 60 times about it. Daddy, I'm trying. I'm shooting bolts of lightning at these skeletons. Let me. Dad, they're over. Yes, I know. I'm killing these guys. Just handle yourself for 2 seconds, please. Please. Yeah. Stop yelling. And then, like, when you're giving that dragon a manicure, where you got to hit its nails or whatever. He's like, ah. I'm like, oh my gosh, shut up, dude. Like, that's why I can't stand Atreus. I really had to think about that, and I'm like, am I really gonna waste the dropping someone into lava on Atreus? And yeah, I think I would. I'd drop him on him. I'd drop him. Sounds really bad because the game was really good, and I just kind of started zoning him out after a while. You know? But I just, oh god, Atreus. It's really bad. One of Kylie's friends has a son named Atreus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, really cool name.
Was that an inspiration from it, or?
I believe he brought it from the mythology, and it just happened to be Kratos' son name. Like, it's just perfect timing. Yeah. Angel.
It's a great topic.
I hate your son, Angel. It's just the video game character.
Researching this today, just kind of going over, you know, everything. It's like thinking about this. There's so many characters you can talk about. There's so many iconic characters, you know, John Marston from Red Dead Redemption series. And, you know, you could even touch into movies and movie franchises with iconic characters. And, you know, it's just, there's a lot to choose from. It's hard to actually pick and do this and think of just one or just two or, you know. Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. Like, you can even think of like Flo from Progressive, you know. So there's people who stand out because of the Geico guy, or Peggy from like Capital One or whatever it was. Remember that? Those commercials. Hello, you reached Peggy. It's like, hey, this is like Sidney Crosby, the hockey player. Like, I love those commercials. But no, I think that as far as iconic goes, I mean, there's like we were saying earlier in the podcast, there's like anybody can identify anything, you know, because it all varies on the person. But when you reach that status of, I'm gonna keep on calling it Mario status, because Mario is one of the first games out there. When you have reached Mario status, actually Space Invader status, you know, people know what Space Invaders is, you know.
Yeah.
People know what Pac-Man is. People know what Mario is. You know, once you reach that legendary status, you know, you've got a great brand. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a great IP. And I think the issue is that there's so many games coming out that are on multiple consoles, cross-platform. I think that makes it harder for some of these companies like Sony and Microsoft to get a mascot to represent them. Because, for instance, like Horizon Zero Dawn, Aloy, she has been making huge advances in like popularity. It's not because, I hate to say it to you people, it's not because the game aged well. It's because it went to PC, you know, like, and more people were able to see it. But she's no longer now a PlayStation mascot because she's no longer exclusive to PlayStation.
Right.
And I loved Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, but for it to be a PlayStation exclusive game, go to PC, get way more popular. I would rather see that, honestly, than have her held to a specific console and just kind of never be appreciated anywhere else. You know, that's just me personally. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Aloy was a great choice, man. She was a character who you got to see her as a child, as a baby, and then experience, you know, her being protected and by an outcast, and then growing up and being bullied and always being on the out, and end up being the one who's there to transcend and grow and save everyone else's bacon. Yep. And that they did a phenomenal job. I cannot wait to play the sequel. Yep. It is just, it's one of those, I beat the game, I almost platinumed it, and I haven't even touched the DLC yet, and I'm already like, oh, I gotta play more, you know. So that's, Aloy was one character that I think for many people went under the radar as far as if you talk about iconic characters. Yeah, I think she's got the best, cleanest image as far as like, if you wanted a brand ambassador for Sony, that's definitely a character that you could, you know, into the future after she's had a few titles under her belt, you know. But, you know, we'll see. You
got a lot of those titles, though, like that. Yeah. You can't let her go to PC. Like, you can't let her launch on PC. You have to keep it Sony exclusive, you know?
Yeah.
Or timed exclusive, because that's what they did with Final Fantasy VII. They did time exclusive on it.
Yeah.
I agree, though. She is a great character for being a brand ambassador. And I think you're exactly right that if you can lock her in, you keep it there. But like I said, at the same time, I don't want to see them hold on to this property or this IP and not share it with the world. Kind of like what Final Fantasy VII is doing right now, where it's like waiting for it to come to PC, you know, because that game on PC will look fantastic. And that's kind of the other thing with these IPs is that I like how some of these companies are able to share IPs and like cross-platform, like the Rabbids and Mario did that game together. You know, Ubisoft's been doing a really good job with Nintendo and taking care of its assets. I just picked this up the other day. Starlink has Star Fox in it, a Ubisoft game that pretty much is like, unfortunately, the best Star Fox game ever made. I don't know how, but it just is. It's just fantastic. Graphics, gameplay, fantastic. But the fact is that when you have these characters that can be like, you know, mascots or brand ambassadors, and you have another company that's going to use that brand ambassador to cross promote, you have to do it right, you know. And I think that Star Fox did a really good job of it with Starlink, and then Rabbids did a really good job with Mario. And I'm hoping that that continues to be the trend, kind of like Smash with Minecraft. If you think about it, Minecraft just had Steve go into Super Smash. Yeah. And it's one of the most popular games in the world. And so when you see iconic characters like that, if you think about it, Smash is kind of a display of popular video game characters. Now, all the Fire Emblem characters, as much as I love Fire Emblem, no one really cares about the Fire Emblem characters that much, you know. No one.
They really just don't know about them, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Fire Emblem was not really popular enough by itself. Super Smash like lifted it up to like the status it is, I personally think. But I mean, like you've got Samus in there, you've got Kirby in there, you've got all these iconic characters, you know. And I think that cross-platform really helps, you know, cement that character into that legacy, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any character that you wish would become this status someday? Do you think there's a character that you're like, oh, like this person is a little more popular?
That's kind of a hard choice.
There was one that I had for a little bit, and I'll let you say yours. Recore, the girl in Recore for the longest. I was really hoping that Recore would take off. Recore's not a great game, you know, but it's different. You know, the fact that you have to in real time change the gun that you're using to match the color is a very basic concept. You had different companions who join with you. That dog that joins you, I liked that. It was a kid game, like a basic family friendly game, but as an adult, like it was just I could get behind it. It was relaxing, you know, and the fact that the character half the time is wearing a mask, you know, and you know it's this girl who's like scavenging and stuff like that. The fact that she's not, you know, helpless. She can obviously sustain herself. It was kind of like Aloy before Aloy, you know, and that's kind of where I was hoping that Recore would become more popular. And it's a 7 out of 10 game. You know, it's not a bad game, but it's not a good enough game to elevate itself to become that status, which is kind of upsetting. But that's one character I kind of wish would become more popular is the Recore girl. Don't even remember their name, but Recore I wish was a more popular game. What you?
That's a tough choice. I've been thinking this entire time while listening to you. Great choice, by the way. Honestly, pretty much everybody, when you think about iconic characters, is already super popular. I think because it's not a main game where everyone's played it because of the mature rating and the franchise. But I really do hope that they retouch on John Marston's character and in a way where it's not just lip service, where they explain what happened to him. But I think personally that the Red Dead franchise, obviously it's not as big as it can be because of the fact that they're taking it online like GTA, Grand Theft Auto Online, and you're kind of losing the sight of what it was originally meant to be by being all these weird, goofy characters with these different outfits. And I think you lose what the game was really meant to be, which was a story-driven game where you, the player, were this one character. And I think John Marston is not as popular as he could be. I mean, if you look at how he dealt with being black, you know, being double-crossed and Left 4 Dead and kind of realizing I'm a bad guy, I do bad things, but here's me trying to make it right, you know. And with Red Dead Redemption, you really didn't see that as much the first game. Red Dead Revolver, you really didn't get to know that at all. And when they changed gears to John Marston, you really got to see this wonderful story. The sequel, you get to play as him a little bit, but you don't get to experience as much as the story of the first game. And there's no real, you know, telling of what happened with him growing up or what happened leading up to those events. You're left wondering. And that's what's really disconcerting and upsetting is he's a likable character for a bad guy. I mean, you know, and I mean, for as a close second, you could also say Arthur Morgan for this story for Red Dead 2. You know, contracting tuberculosis and dying. That was upset. Spoiler, baby. That's how I roll,
man. Oh my gosh, Matt just is spoiling all these games I haven't played yet.
If you haven't seen it by now and you haven't experienced it, it's not going to ruin it for you. But the most thing that was upsetting about that was that I had to go back and play it again, but I didn't because I was upset because your character has an end and then you start over again back with John Marston from the first game. And there's just there's no continuity between the two games. It's just like, well, here, why don't you go recreate what's going to happen between the two games and see if you are happy with it, you know? And it was really upsetting. And for me, John Marston, you know, when you go from having to double cross his guys who double crossed him, and then having to hunt down Bill Williamson and travel across the country and then go into Mexico and put your life on the line because your family's being threatened. That was a thrilling Western story that I think his character really stood out, but I don't think he's as popular as maybe some of the Grand Theft Auto characters were because of the exposure, you know. And I just think for its genre, there's so much to it that there's so many little things that Rockstar puts in it that you just can't really appreciate just one time. You really have to replay it and go back and say, wow, look at the little detail, the tumbleweed on the ground and the rattlesnake in the desert. And if you look at everything closely with a fine-tooth comb, you see the love that they put into it. And they did that with the character. And I think that, you know, John Marston should be elevated up there above the Grand Theft Auto title characters for sure. I mean, honestly, he's more interesting than any of the other Grand Theft Auto characters that there's ever been.
Nico Bellic. Nico Bellic, I think easily tops John Marston.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like to see John Marston go bowling with Roman, play some darts, go to a heroin deal down on Algonquin.
I am leaving here with Roman. Yeah, that was a character I had too many annoying lines with over and over and over again.
I love Nico Bellic. Probably my favorite GTA character. It's hard to top it, you know, but don't want to talk too much about Nico Bellic here because we have kind of gotten to the end of this episode. We ran a little long. It's been a while since we've ran long.
It's about 15 minutes over. Not bad.
Not terrible. Not terrible.
Nah.
But Matt, do you have any final thoughts here to say?
Nope. Nothing really to add, man.
Yeah,
I could keep going and drag this on even longer. 2 hours.
No, we're not doing that. I'm wrapping this up here. But if you guys want to be part of the action, you guys can feel free to reach out to us on our social media.
Absolutely.
At Dista Digital. Or you can reach out to us on our Discord channel. You can comment on the YouTube video, Podbean. We are also on iTunes podcast. If you want to listen there, leave us a rating. It helps us a lot by giving us a 5-star rating and a review, if you guys would be so kind. Would you kindly leave us a review? BioShock reference. Anyways, guys, from everyone here at Dista Digital, we would like to thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
Take care, guys.